Well, this is addressed to Beau, the fifth column. Hello, Eric. What's going on? Caught your vid regarding Iceland. Do you not know how to do your podcast without panicking people left and right? You seem to be joining everybody else in that particular quandary. How to do a podcast without freaking them out left and right. Okay, shall we talk geology? I'm not PhD lettered or anything else, but I did take a few geology classes. Gave me a little bit of knowledge to settle me out because out here in California we get geology. We're in a Pacific Rim of Fire, which means we are constantly moving. In fact, this whole planet is constantly moving and evolving and has earthquakes, magma shifts, magma eruptions. We have fault lines folding into each other, subducting each other, spreading out in the Atlantic Ocean with the Mid Atlantic Range. We have subduction ranges with fault lines disappearing into themselves in other areas. We also have volcanism happening out in Europe and Asia, all over the planet. This planet's been around for billions of years and it's been evolving and changing. So keep that in perspective. Secondly, yeah, we haven't heard anything coming down the pipeline regarding Iceland because if it was a major situation, they would be putting it on the major news. Unfortunately, they hadn't. But it's a good thing that you actually picked up on this particular story here. And yes, for those who are in the uh, area and also have tourists in the area, know anybody in the area at all, they're probably well aware of the situation. Iceland is what they call is a hot spot right by the Mid Atlantic Ridge. We have magma chambers had forced the creation of this particular area, much like Hawaii. Everybody knows that Hawaii has has a volcano on the Big Island, and all the other islands seem to be quieted. But there's also potential. And whenever the Big Island gets into an eruption situation, they always have the earthquakes because they are part of the system. Iceland is one of those that was created by volcanism, by volcanic activity, where they constantly enjoy a weather system up there, growing season, winter season, not quite on the fall. But they do enjoy their hot spots. And it is a tourist trap because of the hot spots out there. All those nice little lovely bubbling hot water puddles that they love to enjoy. Let's go skinny dipping in hot water while everywhere else in the place is freezing your butt off. But they don't take volcanism lightly. If they found out there's things going on, they alert people left and right. And yes, it should have alerted people across the globe about it. I mean, the news cycles, but the news cycles bury it alive like the worm it is. They don't realize the worm tunnels through the dirt and pops up somewhere else and starts spewing off lava and says, "Hello." What we're dealing with here is typical geologic activity. And yes, it is something to be concerned because if it's coming up underneath your house, run like hell or drive like hell. You don't mess around with lava. We've been dealing with seismic and basically seismic activity out here in the West Coast. We are rubbing against Pacific Plate and the North American Plate, and therefore we have the North American Plate going northwards. We have the Pacific Plate going southward, and we have subduction zones across the ways where we're sucking up the old dirt, and the new dirt's going to be recycled somewhere. But in the process, we do have movement and we do have activity. And the thing is, what the scientists out here in the West Coast are worried about are the tetons that we have, dormant volcanoes. Now, we already had our eruption back in '80. Mount St. Helens, and they're still monitoring that one. They're still monitoring Yellowstone to see whether or not we're actually going to get any volcanic activity because we still have hot spots. We still have uh, nice, hot, bubbly water. We also have a geyser that keeps popping up, supposedly on time. I'm kind of surprised about the Earth doing that one. I didn't realize Earth had a clock saying, "Hello, I think it's time to put up Old Faithful again." And they called it Old Faithful because of the timing it took to keep rising up a column of steam. Scared the hell out of people, or enthralled them, anyway. But it's still something for me to be wary about because even with that kind of volcanic activity happening underneath, there's always the possibility of magma being filling up in a chamber slowly but surely until we get blowout. And yeah, that's got me concerned about it. See, it's the hidden ones I'm worried about. And whenever we get any kind of cluster earthquakes, I'm looking, I'm wondering, and I'm watching. I'm not quite sure which particular part of the fault line is going to be erupting, if we're going to be slip sliding away, if we're going to be going underneath. But so far, the San Andreas fault line has been going like this. Iceland doesn't have that. Iceland is part of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that keeps spreading. It keeps spreading. And everything's spread out. And with that much magma flowing through the system, they're having sporadic blowouts of themselves on the islands. And they know what they're doing. There's no need to panic everybody or sound like they're panicking. Geology may be fun for some and scary for others because it's the Earth we're dealing with. We're not dealing with climatic. We're not dealing with atmospheric. Hell, we're not even dealing with radiation. We're dealing with the Earth movement. And the thing is, with Earth's movement, we can't detect the damn thing until it starts moving. And then we're not quite sure what it's going to do next. If the ground is thin enough in certain spots, the ground will deform, form mountains, form ridges. Or it just may decide to erupt. But as long as they're getting enough warning, which is the movement of the Earth underneath, as long as they're tracking that magma flow by the earthquakes, because it's displacing ground, it's pushing ground, and you're getting the vibrations in the form of quakes. A long time ago, Beau, Eric, I had been terrified as a kid. 1971 Sylmar earthquake. That damn thing was pushing about almost 6.9 on that one. But for a scared little boy, it was his whole world going upside down as he saw two beds moving around in an apartment complex. And my brother is trying to get me off the damn thing. Put ourselves into the hallway. Apartment complex. We lived out in North Hollywood, California. Van Owen and Ethel. At one time, it was a good apartment complex. These days, I don't know what the neighborhood's like these days. But I understood that the earth was scaring the crap out of me, and I didn't know why. It was not until I actually took classes in college, decades later, and tried to understand the mechanism of what was going on. Understanding the mechanism is one thing. Dealing with the mechanism is another thing. And during my time in college, only a 2-year stint, it was trying to educate me what minerals that the earth is made out of, the tectonic structure, what the tectonic theory was, that the earth lived on an eggshell, and everything was subjective. Fine, I could see the geologic wonder of the world of sedimentary rock just layering upon each other because of because of water displacing the minerals, solidification over time. You get these nice, lovely rock bands, and then there's other materials that makes them into a conglomerate. That you have these rounded rocks mixed in with the heavy layered rocks. And I'd seen a whole wall of it in a canyon as cars would go through it. I think it was Topanga. It wasn't Kegel. I'm not quite sure if it was Malibu or not, but it was beautiful to see. It looked like it was pockmarked because the rocks get withered away, wind and rain, and you see these little indentations, these round curved indentations. And somewhere down below you see the older sedimentary rocks just worn away through weather and time. It's beautiful to see that way. But it's horrifying when you feel the unknown underneath you without any warning shaking your whole neighborhood apart. When the nature of the ground starts to scare the crap out of you. Especially when the earth shifts its rocks a little bit. Sometimes they'll be shifting because there's water displacement. And the grounds have to, the rocks and the minerals have to resettle itself. What's scarier than that? How about sinkholes? Oh, that's fun. In your territory, you got too many damn sinkholes. How much calcium do you guys have? And limestone? Dissolvable minerals and water? You want to talk about fear? Mr. Beau of the fifth column? I'd be more afraid of living in the south than I am in the north. Because of sinkholes. Because of the mineral deposits that your territory and up the east coast is part of. I don't mind if it's solid basaltic. I don't mind if it's mafic. What I do mind is having dissolvable minerals that'll create a sinkhole, and there you go. And you don't know how big that damn cavern is or hole. That's what scares me. Nice to visit you guys, but I sure as hell ain't living out there. That's for damn sure. And if I'm going to be visiting, I have to walk carefully because I don't know how thin that ground is. I also survived the '94 earthquake in Northridge. I was about 3 or 4 blocks away from the actual eruption, the splitting of the fault lines. Nobody knew this thing was there. Nobody. It was just a hidden thrust fault. Nobody knew it. There was no sign of it. The only sign that we would know that there was geologic activity is probably afterwards when the thing is already done. And then we could see through the layers of how many times rock was moving left and right. And in what direction. Geology is its own language. Dealing with Iceland. Understanding that this is a volcanic hotspot. Understand that in that particular activity, there is always going to be ground movement at that point. And for those who are uninitiated with earthquakes, who haven't been through these damn bastards, it's scary as hell. And even if you had been through it, sometimes it may be fun, and other times it's dangerous as hell. I don't consider it a worldwide emergency concerning about Iceland unless we're talking about a center mound happening in a damn island, and then everything else goes buried under by tons and tons of volcanic ash, rock, and magma coming up. Smaller ones, yeah, they do their own damage. Just look at the Hawaii island chain. The big island itself. Even Etna, the volcano out in Mexico City area. Even Sicily, not Sicily, Italy. Vesuvius. Imagine living in Japan. Imagine living in Japan, my friend. They have to deal with tsunamis. They have to deal with severe weather. They also have to deal with volcanism. They are living on an active fault line that runs right through their islands. Their islands are made of volcanic hotspot. And they constantly go through earthquakes. Constantly rebuilding. For a geologist who loves earthquakes, I don't love earthquakes. I just familiar with them. I familiarize myself with the process. It's a wonderland. I had a professor over at college I attended last several years. And she did her thesis out in Chile. Spreading center out there. And subduction zones. And she was feeling the earthquakes all the time. She was loving it. Earth movement was her livelihood. She was having fun. The students would only look and just like, I'm the only old fart in the class. Older than her. And I said, you guys hadn't been through an earthquake recently, have you? Like, this is well before we had the Ridgecrest earthquake. When a 6.0 hit over there. Years back. Oh, that was fun. July 4th weekend, you want to talk about the Earth having a conniption fit over July 4th? Let's talk to Ridgecrest people. Next thing you know, their whole town's getting torn apart. Oh, they're still intact. They're still intact. Ground split up different sections. But yeah, it was quite something for the geologists to study like crazy. And that was a fault line we didn't even see coming either. We felt it out here in Roseman, California. Ridgecrest is about 200 miles or so. We still felt the shock. A 6-pointer, we'll feel it throughout the area. Even Vegas felt it. Vegas felt it. That's a lot of energy displacement. So I'm imagining what kind of energy is being pumped through their system out there. If it's about a 3 or 4 on a consistent basis, yeah, that would be assuming that the rock is moving at a good clip. Depending on how many times they keep having the Earth move. What the frequency and duration is. Maybe it would give them a direction where potential it is. And they have to look at ground displacement. They have to look at see whether or not we're dealing with a mound being generated. If there are going to be smaller mounds with fumaroles spewing up, and that'll give them like maybe hours or days on that one. When Mount St. Helens back in 80 blew, the geologists were worried. I think we even lost a geologist out there. But they were capturing it on film during those days. They were seeing ground displacement. They were seeing upheaval in the dirt into a mound at the side. And then what was a peak blew off. Side of the mountain blew. Snow, mud, dirt, ash. Scares the hell out of people even to this day when they remember that thing. I'm here in Southern California. I look at the mountain ranges that we have here. The mountain ranges are not showing tectonic activity where we're going to have a fumarole or we're going to have any ash clouds coming out of the damn things. Because our mountain ranges are built by movement of the earth. And they're shifting the mountains up. They're shifting the material up as they're scraping by. The thing about geology, it's in its own time period. We can't see it half the time, but When it erupts, you'll know. And sometimes we can chart it if we're lucky enough. Iceland's lucky enough. They got sensors all over the damn place. These days, we've got digital tracking. We've got satellites. We've got computers working on it. The USGS is a lot better equipped, more able to give out better warnings because they're studying more and more about movement of the Earth. If we only had scanners and sensors to look inside the Earth to see the actual dynamics of the Earth in action, maybe then it'll give us a little bit better warning of what particular places are going to be hit next. But that's for another century. It's not going to happen in yours or my lifetime, my friend. When you're going to be talking geology, talk geology. Talk them in a professor kind of attitude. You know, you're not a professor. You're probably never even taken the geology classes. But, dude, you got geology happening right underneath your feet. I suggest you study up on sinkholes and the ground that's underneath your feet. And go talk to a geologist. Then we'll talk.